What's happening?
How's it going?
All good in the hood. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Man, it's been we were just chatting, right? So July of last year, and then we did the year before, it was July. We didn't realize it was in July.
Yeah.
So what's been happening?
We threw it off this time. Was it April? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. We're a little early. We're a little early to our yearly conversation here.
Awesome.
So what's good, man? How's you've gone through a lot in the last little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah, seems
So
like
July was that pre hurricane coming in?
the first that
When
was
did
in
the hurricane
22.
hit?
September 22.
September 22. So we had that after the first conversation. Second conversation here, we talked kind of the changes, things were going on, and so yeah, kind of you've had a lot of life happening.
It's a lot of then after that it was just a lot of like personal stuff, family stuff. Like that was like the craziness the last 6 months, but we're on the rebound on that too. So it's just like it's almost like a annual thing. Like you get a hurricane, then you have all these crises that come up. But that's just life, man. You gotta keep going. So
I really want to kind of, dive in a little bit because I think there's a lot of lessons, impact and things that you've gone through personally, and juggling the dynamics. And it's things that we see, especially, talking real estate here, and really down to, the human side of things. Right. So not only things that you've had to navigate, kiddos and personally and who you're evolving and who you're becoming and really not losing sight of that. I want to kind of, start there because I think there's a lot of leadership lessons and a lot of leadership principles and seeking and guidance and becoming, regrounded back to, the core foundation, core principles. And then we'll chat, navigating, high net worth individuals and how to, lessons learned in that I think is very, very valuable as well. But, I think for a lot of agents that I've seen, I shared this article at KT from Ryan Holiday, and it was like, he put it out at the beginning of the year about like 34, life lessons that he wished he would have knew starting his career. And one of them he talks about is the element of you can't have it all. And he said it's false, right? If anybody tells you that you can have it all, it's not true. And he breaks it down into three things, right? He talks about your craft, he talks about your family, and then he talks about the scene, right? The social aspect of things. And I know it to be so true. Like when I read it, I'm reflecting on myself, and then I start to see it everywhere. And, I remember going through a phase of, okay, hey, relationships and family are everything, but the scene is so important. So the business struggles. And then it's like, oh shit, the business is the most important. And then I can't let go of the scene, so relationships suffer. And then I think it's a maturity level. You get to a point for some, it's like, dude, it's your craft and your family that matters the most. Let go of the scene. The scene doesn't matter. The scene is not going to fulfill you. The scene is not going to move you forward. And it was a great, okay, this is okay, right? Like you don't have to master it all, because it's impossible. That's basically what he was saying, is like, you just don't have enough time or bandwidth to be able to do that. So like, for you looking at kind of the things and tapping back into understanding, like, dude, everything evolves from here. Like, I would love for you to kind of, share a little bit of that, because it's so, I think, important for people to listen, to hear, how critical your faith has, really regrounded you, but also finding, more meaning beyond yourself, and just how that's made everything better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. You kind of put your business first, and then it can create other issues outside the business. And I think that's what I did a lot. Like, coming out of that hurricane, especially, it was like, all right, we just got to recover. And then once we got to a point where it's like, all right, now let's rebuild the business. It's like, just went so far in on that. And then you kind of start to neglect the really stuff that matters. And I didn't realize how much it mattered until it had a problem. And that's the family stuff. And then, then we just started having, it was like July, August, we just we've got 3 kids, and our oldest, he's 14 now, but, just was really struggling with a lot of things, and just like going through some really hard times. And like when that happens, like you just put everything on hold. It's like that's really what we did. And, my wife stays home with the kids. And so it's up to me to, make money, and run the business. And so when that happens with your family, you realize that's the most important thing. I didn't do any real estate activities for several months, because I was just like, I got to get this right. I got to figure out what to do, provide that support. One of the things we started doing, we started going to church again. I mean, we've had a church now for about 4.5 years, and it's easy to go once a month or something, or, maybe a couple times a month. And then all of a sudden you haven't been in like a month and a half. And then, so it's like, we just started going there, and then leaning into relationships we were building there. That's something that really helped. I know it's helped my whole family, my wife especially. Like, she really plugged in, and we met people through there. We started going to like we have a men's group on Tuesdays. There's a women's group on Thursdays. It's just, you're getting in a group of people where you can open up. It's the most non-judgmental place there is that I've ever seen. And it was I don't know how we would have gotten through it without building that faith foundation really strongly. I think we might've missed one Sunday since end of August, early September. Like, seriously. Yeah. And it's because we had something going on, like we were not here or something. But it's like, we started going to that, and then seeing my wife's faith grow through this whole process. That's the only thing, like, no matter what you're going through, it's a piece that it's beyond understanding. And it's just, I think everything now is rooted in faith. And it's like, we've talked about that even in the last, we've talked about this through this whole process that I've been going through. And, I think even now, like, I'm looking at what are my core values as, I've had that for a while, for the last few years in my business, but now it's like, how do I align that with my faith? Because I think that's the most important thing, and putting that first, because that's family, that's, putting God first, putting my family second. Now that those seem to be going, on the right track, and then the business stuff started to kick in. So it was like around end of November. It's like, boom, listing over $1 million. 2 weeks later, another one. Now there's like 4 of those, and so we're getting some activity on those. We've had once that faith side got right and the family side got right, then the business seemed to kind of come together. And it seems like what I'm rebuilding it as now, because that's really what it is. I'm rebuilding it. It just seems so much stronger than it ever was before.
It's a better foundation, right? It's I don't know very many Bible verses, but I know in Matthew, it's you build on solid foundation, build on the rock versus build on the sand. And building anything that is something that you don't align to who you are at your core, and the promises that you want to make and the promises that you can keep, is really just a house of cards. It's just a matter of time. And that's not only with our business, but that's also with our life. And, it's, I think, getting into an environment that people, create the clarity, but also, the freedom and the space to really figure out what that is, right, for you. And so, you talk about, finding that place, but like, what are some of the foundational things that you maybe had let slip? Or, I mean, we're all human. We forget things, right? If it's not in front of us and it's not repetitive enough, we all need to be reminded more than we need to be told. So it's like for you, where was that? Because, how I push you on your business is foundation, right? Because if you're not building on a strong, sturdy foundation, and even from your construction background, this, right? That, to build a strong foundation means you got to go deep with the foundation and the footings. And it's why you see skyscrapers that have these big ass holes in the ground first before it goes up, is right. That you got to build this foundation. So like for you, kind of where you're at, because this is so important, because like I said, just like it made me reflect what Holiday was saying. And it's just like, fuck, no wonder that didn't last. Right. Like, and so the foundation wasn't there. And so with you, understanding how important, your faith is, what are some of those foundational, principles that you're like, okay, hey, this is key. This is going to carry me in every other area of my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's different foundations there. Like, you got to have your faith. Like for me, it's like I have my faith foundation where it's like, for us, it's important to be there, on a weekly basis, for me, it's like spending time with God, like getting in the Bible. I do that consistently now. Going to, prayer time, being involved in, it's like what you surround yourself with is like, you need to be surrounded by, if that's something that's important to you, then you need to be surrounded with it. So it's like some of my mentors now, they're from church, we're there on Sundays. That's awesome, but you can't I don't think you could just do that. So like we're in groups, there are a couple other nights a week just outside of that. So then that comes, and then it really helps us to get just on then there's like the family foundation. It's just, making them the focus, making sure that, like if there's if our son's having issues or any of them are having issues, it's like, all right, let's get that. Let's not let this get out of control. Let's handle it right now and get it right. And then that takes away all the distractions that kept me from the foundational stuff in the business. Because that was all like, when that wasn't right, it's like I couldn't do the basic things because it was such a distraction, and just like it would pull me away. So just doing the foundational day-to-day stuff in the business that you have to do consistently, I think they've all kind of helped each other.
Yeah. I think it, like you said, you hit that word distraction, right? It creates a bunch of distractions that doesn't allow you to, be who you need to be to get to that level. One of the things that I've seen, and it's really cool, right? I think it was what's happening, for you and your wife is really, you can only get to a certain level. You just take this over to the business side of things, right? But I think that, in my mind, they all carry over, right? And so where I see a lot of teams and agents and organizations, they hit a ceiling is because it's only, the size of their organization is in direct proportion to the size of their leadership capabilities. And so when those leadership capabilities expand, the organization can expand. And you look at kind of expanding that within your family, like with you and your wife, right? And then the kids are watching, right? They're paying attention and they're in that environment. Now they're growing, they're expanding.
Yeah. And then really it's put my wife and I on the same page on way more things than we were ever on the same page with before. We would have everybody's got different parenting styles, but it's like when I'm super busy and she's consumed with the kids and I'm consumed with work, it's like, we're going to do things differently. So like, I think that's something that's really helped a lot is like, we're much more aligned than we've ever been. And it's something we're still working on to get, continue to get better at, but we're unified most of the time, and they see that, and that really helps. Because then they see us, they're going to model that behavior. They're copying you whether you like it or not.
Like, so what do you model? Right? They're going to copy it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think us getting consistent there has been a big deal. And then you just kind of you can't do anything else if you don't have the right on the home front.
Yeah, 100%. And what you said there is so key, right? Getting everybody on the same page. And nobody can support the plan if they don't know the plan. And when you have an agenda, and even like a business partner or even your team, right? If they don't know the plan, they can't support the plan. And so, goes back to leadership. Everything revolves around leadership. And, first and foremost is that extreme ownership, leading by example. And like you said, with our kiddos, and this goes even with team members, they're just going to model the behavior, and they're going to they're either going to model it exactly, or they're going to repel from it. Right. That's I think you and I were even talking about this, was the example and something that we were going through to, you look at, like kiddos when they have, addictive, parents addicted to substance abuse or alcohol, they'll either be just like them, or they'll be polar opposite of it. Right. And so I think, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying, or they're never going to be anything like that and be the opposite.
Right. So they have that that extreme. Yeah. So, I think it's so important. And it's the biggest thing that I've seen that derails and distracts from, us as leaders becoming the best versions of ourselves, is having those distractions. But even more so, I think the other thing here too, that I know you just kind of surrendered to it, was getting into an environment and finding direction and finding help. It's like, even like within our business, right? We need a coach and a mentor in every aspect of our life. If you're seriously committed to improving it, then you should have a coach or a mentor in every aspect, right? So like you have, for your faith and your, the kind of that spiritual advisor. It's Leanne for me. And then you have, in your fitness coach, right? Got Elizabeth right there on the fitness side of things. And then you got within the business, right? Like I've got multiple mentors. I've, created that tight inner circle that I'm always bouncing things off of for their feedback and direction. And so I think it's so important for people to get that nobody can go through this on their own. Nobody can go through this on their own. Everybody needs guidance and direction and mentorship and help. And it's almost a superpower to surrender to that and to be able to go. So does that accelerate things for you? How much does that help you?
Oh, there's no way we could have accomplished what we've accomplished in the last 6 months if we'd just been trying to do it on our own. Like, so much of that is like, it's relinquishing control. It's not necessarily somebody else making the decisions for you, but like, just leaning on those mentors, leaning on, like, for me, it's been leaning on, people, like, shoot, when all that was really blowing up with my son, like September, October, November, I bet every one of our calls every week, we didn't talk about business for 2.5 months because it didn't matter, and that was a big thing. But then it's like the mentors that I've developed at church, in these groups, just being able to lean on them and really relinquishing it. It's kind of crazy. Like when I think about how far we've come. So my wife and I this last night was the second night. They just started a new group. It's for, men, women, husbands, wives, whatever. It's a group on Wednesdays. And so we're actually leaders in that group now, because it's like, it's helped us so much. We've seen it from being in these groups. Now we're leaders in this group. And so now it's like, they have, this is the second week and there's like 80, 90 people there a week right off the bat, but now we're leading a table, and everybody at that table has never been involved in the group. It's like, well, so we're just leading that table how to go. And somebody last night, it gave a great example. And it's like, if you're going to give, for us, it's give God the keys. You got, if you have a bunch of, keychain of keys, do you give it to them and go, well, I'm going to keep that key. I'm going to keep that one because I'm okay at that part. Or are you really going to give them to them? And so that's where, that was a big topic last night, is control. Like you got to be willing to give that up and just trust that you still have to do the work. You still have to make decisions, but not put so much pressure on yourself to get it right every time too.
What I love this, right? Because I think a lot of us, especially us guys, we struggle with that letting go, right? That control side of things. And I think it even, it carries over in our business. It carries over, from there. It's a leadership growth, right? A leadership piece. And so you're talking about that, right? The keys and holding on to a few and not giving all. Like, what's the downside of not letting go?
I mean, I think you let go of everything or you let go of nothing. You're going to end up trying to hang on to something. I don't know. I think if you're trying to control bits and pieces and not really relinquishing things, it's just going to spill over into everything else. I can look at like a keychain as like, I had my faith, I had my, my family, and I had my business. And then I had my, like fitness too. Like that's 4 keys. If I'm going to build, I'm really going to control my business. I'm really going to control, my fitness, and those are going to be my focuses. And then, we'll go to church when it's convenient, and my wife's got the kids, and then she's really going to have that one. Well, then now we're not together doing the same. Like we're not we're not united in our parenting front. And then that can create some divisions. So it's like, if you look at just those 4 things as a keychain, I was really trying to control 2 that I thought were the most important, and just leaving her on an island, that wasn't fair either. And she needs help and I need help. It's like when we combine them, and it just helped us get united, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It just feels like, control's just kind of an illusion too. Right. So it's like, I mean, with that lesson, right? Like what you were teaching, what's that lesson? Like how do you work through that? Because, I'm speaking from somebody that deals with control shit, right? And has in the past. So like, how do you work through that? What's the lesson there?
It's a work in progress, man. It really is. That's one thing. It's like, I didn't have the control last night to solve everybody's problem. It's, just providing them, that when people were talking about things that they have struggled with control with, sometimes it's just, you gotta have a place to be able to talk about it. Sometimes people will start talking about something and talk themselves to a solution because they had that environment where they could do it. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, man, some people, like I know the first men's group I went to, dude, I unloaded on it's like I needed it. I needed it so bad. I was struggling so bad with my son. And man, it's like I unloaded and it was a lot to deal with, and even last night, like somebody there was sharing some deep stuff, like stuff they're really having a hard time with, but they don't have control over the situation, and they can't, because it involves another person. Another person is involved in something where it's out of their hands too. Yeah. So it's like you can only do it. You can only do so much, and so I would have loved to be able to solve everybody's thing, but sometimes it's going on. I don't even have control over that. I'm just gonna give them that platform, give them that space to talk through it, and hopefully that helps. It's a process. It's not a sit down one time and you solve things. That's like one step of many.
How has giving, because I want you to touch on Valerie's house. I want you to touch on, finding a place to where you can give And how does the aspect of giving help you and what it is that because we're all working through things, right? Like you said, work in progress. That's exactly what it is. And it's a never ending work in progress. But when you find a place to where that you can really have an impact and give, how does that help, what you're trying to work through as well? Valerie's house is a very, it's very dear, very important to you. And just explain kind of what Valerie's house is.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a nonprofit. It's for families that lost a loved one, and the basic principle is no child should grieve alone. And it's not just for children; it's for, like, let's just say, so I go every other Monday, and so so we cycle every 2 weeks, and so count that Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. That's 10 days. So there's 10 different types of groups. So the types of groups that are there on Mondays when I go, it's families that lost a parent. So it might be a mom brings their kids, and then the mom has a group of other moms who's, the husband or father, the kid's father passed away. The dads have a group, similar kids. Like I'm in a group. It's like 11 to 13-year-olds, same age as my older two kids. And it's like, but then these kids get in that group, and it's an environment of people that are like them, same age. And like at school, like if they lost their parent, like kids at school don't understand if they didn't go through that. The old mentality was just get over it. You're going to have to move on.
Yeah.
Like that's the wrong way to do it too. So it's like kids can really open up there. And man, I've been doing that for about 2.5 years. And I've just seen just the impact it has on these kids to be able to open up and grow. And sometimes kids, I've been doing it long enough now where some kids feel like they don't need that anymore because it helped them get through that darkest point in their life. And some kids grow up in it, and then they give back, and then they come back later. It's been around for over 8 years, maybe longer. I don't remember the exact year it was founded, but there's kids there now that lead groups that they might have started going there when they were 16, and it helped them so much. Like it's a passion for them. And so, I've really got involved because I heard about it through a fishing tournament that I sponsored. And I was like, man, I know that there's, especially like boys, like, because it's like, when I first started getting involved, it was like mentorship, like a mentorship opportunity. Like I know that there is a shortage of leaders, of women leading kids, especially kids that lost a father. Like that's like, I think my kids, it would be extremely hard to lose either parent, but I'm a man, so I can go help with that part of it. Not be their parent, but just be there to guide them. And it's like we start off, we play sports outside. There's a dinner, like you can eat outside at a table, whatever, inside, whatever. And then you break off into your groups. And there were some times, especially in these, in the fall, where I just had so much stuff going on, I couldn't be there. And there was actually a gap there where I wasn't there for about a month and a half. And and this was about 2 or 3 months ago. I was driving there one night coming in. I wonder if I should really still do this. And that night I was like, man, no doubt I should be doing it, because the way these kids opened up, talking about what I believe is angels, this kid stood up, and he'd been going there for about 1.5 years, and he was comfortable enough to say, we were building these memory boxes where they put, photos in. We had provided every kid with a photo of their parent that had died, or maybe it was one of them and their parent. And then we just had all these different magazines and things and stickers and just stuff they could put in that reminded them of them. But this kid stood up and talked about how, like, he heard, he goes, I might sound crazy by saying this, but sometimes I feel like I can hear my dad. And it's like an audible, it's like his voice. And, sometimes, like, I feel like the wind changes temperature, or it picks up when I hear it. And this girl stood up. She's like, I don't think you're crazy. I felt that too. Same thing. And another kid stood up. And then another girl was like, man, like, I would love to experience that. And so, I think just to be there leading a group there's usually one or two other, group leaders in there, because sometimes we all have like 10 kids in there. And so, just being able to be there, and these kids trust us and they need that outlet. And, it's been powerful. And to know that like you're having that impact, it kind of, it can put things in perspective. But that really was never the reason I did it. I didn't realize that was going to be kind of a side effect. It's definitely not a, I think it's a good one. But it's just, it's fulfilling, and then like this last one I went to, my week was last week. So next week I'll be going again. There was a new kid there whose dad had just passed away. And like, I was just playing basketball with him and I could tell, and like he needed that, he needed that bad. So there's not too many, guys that are involved in it. There's some, but it's a lot of women that lead the groups too. And some, like a lot of nights I go there, there's nobody else that's going to play basketball with these kids or throw football. It's like, that just might be what they need. So it's been amazing. It's given me different perspective on a lot of things. Everything's, a lot of the things I've learned in my faith journey, especially in the last 6-7 months, like, man, I'll go there and it's like, it confirms something I just read or something I heard in a group, a church group or in a sermon or something I listened to. It's like, it all ties together.
Yeah. To me, seeing that, when we think we're struggling with things, it's doing things that helps put things into perspective and really what matters the most. And we lose, I think it's just like I said, we all need to be reminded more than we're being told, but we need to be able to create and design structure and boundaries and in circumstances, environments to, reset us and refocus us. And I think getting into that, when you see that, when you experience it, it's hard to articulate until you're in that moment. But, things like that, for me, just really puts things right back into, okay, what truly matters. And I think that's a lot of, the levels of life that we all, navigate through. And, from a survival standpoint, but then into a status, right? And I think that's where a lot of traps people, fall into is chasing that status game and staying in that game too long. And I see it. We did it. We did the same thing, man. And we chased being number one, right? Like for no damn reason other than just to be number one. And that's a status trap. And, you let go of things or lose sight of things that matter the most. And you pay the price for that. And I think kind of where you're talking is it moves you into that level of freedom and being able to live in a place that, really is more fulfilling, and having a greater impact. And it's the whole giver's gain mentality when you're in there. And it's like, oh, I'm doing it because it's going to come back to me, but that's not the reason. But
no,
it does. There is a ripple effect in a positive way with that. But I think it's the lessons, right? I think it's the lessons of being a human, being a damn good human, and also how to deal with other humans. And so I know, like for you, you've had, some just like everybody, we all got challenged.
Yeah, everybody's got stuff.
But how has that helped you? Maybe it's to have more. Is it to have more patience with people? What is
it's definitely helped. It's almost like, there's been stuff that's happened lately that a year ago I would have completely lost my shit. Like going off on somebody, I still like to control things. I try not to as much. I still, I've always had more of a sense of urgency than I find than other people around me, and that can be frustrating. But man, I've just been just realized like none of that crap matters. You know, it's not worth getting bent out of shape over stuff. You know, I don't think I've lost sleep over, like, I haven't lost sleep over any business stuff in the last 8 months, and I used to all the time. I've lost sleep over, you know, family stuff. I've woken up in the middle of the night going, okay, what am I supposed to be? What is it supposed to be teaching me? And I'll jump into the Bible, man, or I'll just sit there and I'll think, and it's like helps me get through that too. But just the day to day, if my son breaks his phone, like I'm not like fuming anymore. You know, he breaks them far less than he used to. He's had more iPhones than me, and I've had them since they came out.
Those are no fun changing over, by the way, which, you know, I just went through.
Yeah. So, but sometimes, you know, I don't know. It's definitely helped with patience.
Yeah, I think so. I think it puts things into perspective. You know, for me is, you know, it's always layers deeper concept. And, you know, really, you know, my coach, you know, Matt has really helped, you know, with the smoke and fire. And,
Yep.
you know, it's everybody's always dealing with something. And I think, you know, you can hear that and then you think about you, but then you get into a situation like with Valerie's house, or getting into not just kind of almost on the sidelines within your faith, on the sidelines at church, but actually getting in the game and collaborating and leading groups and being, you know, collaborative and interactive. And there's nothing wrong with just sitting on the sidelines either.
So you have to do that too.
Sometimes you just got to sit there, right? And that's just what you need. You need to observe. And then there's times that you need to get in to collaborate, because we all have something to give, right? And being able to do that and find that, to me, it just unlocks, you know, who we are and our understanding and our potential. And so just know that it's just a reminder that everybody's going through everything. And, you know, everything you were talking through there, Matt told me about 2 years ago. He goes, there's only two things that matter for the evolution for us to become the best versions of ourselves. It is a constant mindfulness type of practice. And so for you, it's prayer, it's in your study, in your Bible, and then also improving our level of emotional intelligence. And when you get into that situation, like with Valerie's house and then experiencing it and, you know, giving back, and then you have to deal through those scenarios in your own life. You know, that's where that level of emotional intelligence, right? It does things that don't bother you anymore. You have a higher level of self-awareness. You're really starting to understand, you know, kind of your strengths. But, you know, one of the, you know, the main tenets, one of the 5 main tenets of emotional intelligence is empathy. And, you know, the best video for empathy is the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, just jump on YouTube and just type in Cleveland Clinic empathy. It's the best 4 minutes. It's the most powerful 4 minutes that you can watch. You'll get empathy just like that. And the other thing is to get in the game, like what you've done with Valerie's house and within the church. That immediately puts things right into perspective. And so, yeah, it's everything that kind of I wanted to pull out of our conversation today was understanding, you know, for us as leaders, it has to start, you know, obviously leading ourselves before we can lead our family and start to lead our teams and lead within our community as well, because that's the ripple effect. That's where it really, you know, rolls out. And so I think understanding, you know, kind of what you're talking about is growing with your emotional intelligence, but also growing with your, you know, your mindfulness type of practice activity and everything that you're doing. It's just, you're just more self-aware. You're just a more self-aware human being. And you know, I've experienced, you just see things differently.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's well said. I mean, and, you know, then it's like, you know, if something helps you, like I can't, you know, like you kind of gave me this analogy back in gosh, it was probably like September. Like I just realized how many people were around us because of what we were going through. Like I was like leaning on people that were just coming through for us. And man, like anytime, like just thinking back to that time gets me kind of going. But but you had said that you've been making deposits so long, sometimes you got to take some withdrawals. And that's where like we took a lot of withdrawals on going to our church and just taking whatever it is that we needed. I was like, how do we not continue to grow in this? How do we not get more involved?
Yeah.
So it just, I think you have to have that mentality, and it's like, if it helped us, why wouldn't we get involved? Even if it doesn't help you, if you see it helping other people and you have the ability to do it, I think you should do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it right there. There's going to be a time in our life that we need it's okay. We do need to be able to make a withdrawal, but if you haven't been intentional in making those deposits, there's nothing to withdraw from. And so, yeah. And it's hard, man. You're a very proud, very, driven, man. And it's like, man, I got this, right? I got this. If I go ask for help, sometimes we tend to think that it's a sign of weakness. And I've always said, man, asking for help and then being willing to receive it is a superpower. And that's part of the recipe for change. And without it, change is not possible.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to get humbled. Humbled hard.
Humble hard, baby. Humble hard. Well, I appreciate you, coming in, being really vulnerable. I know you've, really have navigated through a really challenging time, since we were last on the show back in July of last year. A lot of life has happened, and a lot of, I think more from it though is growth. And I think there's so many lessons from that, but I think one of the biggest lessons is not giving up. There were times, right? We almost gave in, we almost let go of something, and like it just didn't feel right. But I think that comes to your intuition, that comes into your faith and who you are spiritually as a human being. You just knew it wasn't right. Yeah. And thank goodness you didn't, that didn't happen. And so,
I mean, your intuition, it's like, if it gives you anxiety, it's not God, man. And it's not right. And that is your intuition.
Leanne, has a high level. She's a very highly sensitive human being. She has a gift, and she has a high level of anxiety. And so she's really understanding what that means. And, she sent me something the other day, talking about the CIA. So obviously we're on YouTube, so this will probably get flagged here. But she was talking about, what she sent me was talking about that the CIA looks for high anxiety people because they have a high level of alertness, and they know something's off. They know something's not right. And so to your point, when you said that, right, if that anxiety is creeping in, that means look immediately to your intuition. Something's off. So it's really powerful. Really powerful.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That'll be an off YouTube conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I know the two of you will, you guys can probably talk for days. So it's good. Brother, I appreciate you. Like I said, man, I know you've grown, as a leader and a man more, over the last, 6-7 months than I think maybe ever. So kudos to you. And I know you're just getting started on this journey.
Yep. Well, thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Got it, brother. Appreciate you. Awesome, guys. We'll see you next time. See you.
Later.